DeepSeek-R1. I'm sure you must be hearing a lot about DeepSeek-R1 and how it is doing much better than OpenAI O1 model. So in this video, we will learn how you can download DeepSeek-R1, the distilled model, on your computer, Windows machine, and how you can run it either with the help of a GPU, or even if you don't have a GPU, how you can run it with the help of a CPU. That is what we'll talk about. So first of all, what we need to do is to run it offline. We need to install this software called Ollama. I have created a detailed video on how to install Ollama, and you will find the link in the description. But the quick thing is you just go to the download page, choose your operating system, Mac, Linux, Windows. I am on Windows. So I will choose Windows and I will do a download. So this will download the software, and it will be called Ollama Setup. I save it in my download folder. Okay, so download is finishing. I will click here and open the folder where it is downloaded. So you can see this is downloaded here. And to install it, just double click on this and the installer will start. So this is the installer. I click on continue and Ollama is being installed. It's as simple as that. You download, you double click to install, and Ollama will install. So that is the first step which install the Ollama. Ollama is our system which runs the local models. So there can be model based on Llama, model based on Quen, model based on Phi. This is a software to run those models. So same way, DeepSeek has created the R1 models, various versions of it, and we will see it right now. In some time, what are the versions available for us to download and run, and Ollama will run them. Okay, so installation is done. So to start it, we'll just go to search and type Ollama, and we'll just open it. When you click on open, you don't see anything on the screen because this is run as a server in the background. So you can go here and click on this, and you should be able to see this Ollama running in your background. If you right click on this, you have an option to quit. I'm not quitting, I'm running it in the background. Okay, so this is running in the background. Now, next step is we will start our command prompt here, and this is where we will run our system. And I will also show you my system configuration. So my machine is, if you see here, my machine is AMD Ryzen 9 7950X. This is a 16 core processor, 32 threads. I have only 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I have 2 generation old RTX 3080 Ti with 12 GB of RAM. So I will show you how you can run your models in the RAM as well as in the VRAM. So first we will go with GPU. So now we want to go to Ollama website and search for the model. So this is the models page on ollama.com. We click on it, and top of it you are seeing DeepSeek-R1. Now there are many different models. Some of these are distilled on Ollama, some of them are distilled on Quen. So if you click on this and go inside the page, just click on this drop down. And if you want to see all of them, you can click view all. But before doing that, you can see that there are different versions: 1.5 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion, 14 billion, 32 billion. And if you do view all, you can see that some of them are based on Quen and few of them are based on Llama. So now which model to download? Okay. So if you have very less amount of VRAM or very less amount of RAM, and your CPU or GPU is also not very strong, I would suggest you go with 1.5 billion first. So what you do is you click on 1.5 billion and you copy this command. So this is a command. You click on this. The command is copied. You come here and you paste your command here. So command is Ollama run DeepSeek-R1, and this is the model size. So this is 1 billion parameters model, and you click on enter. Okay. And now in my case, you can see that this came up very quickly. In your case, what it will do is it will go to Ollama website, it will download the model, and then it will come on this prompt. Okay. So if you want to see some detail about this, you can say just buy, and you can say show. So now it shows the details. So this is based on Quen 2 architecture. 1.8 billion parameters. The context length is 128K, 128K context length, and embedding is 1536, and this is a Q4 model. So if you have more space and want more accuracy, you might go to Q5 or maybe even Q8. Okay. So now to run and test it, what we do is we go to the run command. So we do Ollama run this and we write verbose at the end of it. This verbose just prints some statistics because we want to see how fast the system is running. So we click and we say hi, and you see there's this think start and think and kind of two buttons. And in these two, this shows the deep thinking it does. The evaluation rate is 156 token per second. So in my 3080 Ti, this is very fast. So if you click on this, let's say I tell it, tell me a long story. Okay. So it did some thinking and it asked me, I can help you write a long story about various topics. So let me know what kind of story you want to say. Let's say about a lonely boy visiting his grandma. Okay. And now it is creating the story. And here you can see that this is running on GPU and this is a big bump. But it is running very easy, 205 tokens per second. So very easy to run. Okay. So we click buy to it and we exit from this. The next we can go is to 7 billion model. Please note that this is 4.7 GB of size, and this is the prompt you want to copy, and you want to come to your prompt. And before this, I will add verbose in front of it. In my case, I have already downloaded the 7 billion model. In your case, again, it will go to Ollama's website. It might take a minute or two to download the model and then we'll run it. So this is how you start 7 billion model. And here you can see that now the model is being loaded in the memory. So you can see clear jump in the memory. The prompt has came. Now the model is loaded in the memory. We'll give the same command to it. Tell me a long story about a lonely boy visiting his grandma. And here you can see that now you can see this peak. No memory use, no CPUs, GPUs is not being used 100%, around 89-90%. So 7 billion model is very easily running on 3080 Ti. And what is the number of prompts it will create? We'll just check. So that's a long story. GPU is completely full. And what does Ollama does is it loads the model in the memory and keeps it in the memory for 5 minutes at least. So here you can see it's around 96 tokens per second. So pretty good. We say bye to it and we say Ollama PS. So you can see that both the model 1.5 is still in the memory, 7 billion is also in the memory. So if you ask to load 1.5 billion, that is also loaded in the memory. So both of them are loaded in the memory. Now let's check the 8 billion one. So we go here again, we click on the 8 billion one and we copy the command from here. We come back to our command prompt and we give this command Ollama run, and this time we are choosing 8 billion model, and we will go verbose again because we want to see how fast it creates the output. So here what you can see is that 1.5 billion model is flooded from the memory and this new model is loaded in the memory. So I think this time this 6 GB one is unloaded and this is loaded in the memory. So this is a 8 billion model. And now we can ask the same question to 8 billion one. And you can see this time the GPU being used is a lot, 96%, 97%. And memory is also being used, but still 12 GB memory is good enough for 8 billion model. And please note that this is Q4 model. So all these models which I'm downloading are Q4 model. We can check it again. And let's see. Okay, so right now this is the only model in the memory. It is taking 6.9 GB of space. So if we do this and change it to show, you can see that this is 8 billion model and Q4 model KM. Okay, so this is the 8 billion one. Now let's try the 14 million one, whether my GPU will be able to run it or not. It is 9 GB, so my GPU should be able to run it. Let's see. We come here on our prompt and we give the command and we say verbose. And here we go to our GPU to see. So the old model is still in the GPU. Let's load this 14 billion and see what happens here. So the old model is removed from the memory and this is a bigger model. So now 11 GB of the 12 GB is being used. So that's pretty good. And let's give it the same command. Okay, it is thinking. This time I can clearly see that this is going slower than the last one. And the GPU is being used. Hardly any difference in the memory. Oh, this time CPU is also being used. This is surprising. So this model is not completely in the VRAM. This time the model, some part of model is in the RAM as well, and CPU is also helping. Okay, so this we need to check. So this, as this was, what was the size? The size was 9 GB. Should have been in the GPU only. Why it is there? So this is 30 tokens per second, and because it's using the CPU as well. Let me check why it is using the CPU. Okay, so this is 6% loaded in the CPU and 94% was loaded in the GPU. So that's why. So see this, due to this reason, it was using the CPU. So when a model cannot be loaded into your VRAM because your VRAM is not sufficient. In my case, actually, VRAM was sufficient. The size it is showing is 10 GB and I have VRAM of 12 GB. But for some reason, it might be using VRAM for something else. So it was not able to load completely. So it loaded into the RAM, and whatever is loaded in the RAM is run through CPU, and whatever is loaded in the VRAM, video RAM or GPU RAM, that runs through GPU. Now, I have another model here, which is 32 billion model, which I have downloaded. Now 32 billion model, if we go here and select 32 billion model, now this is 20 GB and that is surely not enough for my GPU. So now it will run CPU and GPU both. So to run that, we copy this command and we paste this command here and we add verbose to it. And now you will see that, okay, the, the previous model is unloaded and now this model is unloaded and you can see the memory as well. Full memory, full GPU memory. Wow. And it is taking time to load. So I think it needs to use some RAM. Okay, so it is loaded. So you can see that approximately 11 GB out of 12 GB VRAM, and it unloaded something from this. So if I say bye to it and I do Ollama PS, okay, so you can see 50% in CPU and 46% in GPU RAM. Okay, good. So let's run it again and give it the same prompt and see whether it is able to produce some result. And here you can see the memory is loaded again. So here you can see that GPU is not being used too much because it has to go synchronous with the CPU. So now CPU is doing a lot of work using the CPU memory, which is RAM, and GPU is doing around 50% of the work. And to do 50% of the work, it has no need to go above 25, 26, 30%. So it is working. So even if you don't have lots of VRAM, it works for you, but it goes very slow. So it is in front of you. Now, the next what we will test is only running on CPU. So we'll try 1.4 model, 7 model, and 8 model. And we will see whether it runs purely on CPU and how fast they run if you don't have any GPU or have only internal GPU. So without using the GPU, we'll try and run it. But before that, let's see how it is going. 23%, VRAM is full, RAM is taken full, CPU is around 50 to 60%, in between 50 to 60%. This is going on. So let it run. By the way, if you have a bigger RAM or bigger VRAM, what you can try is you can go for the next model, which is 70 billion. So 70 billion model is 43 GB in size, but I don't have that kind of RAM or VRAM. Even if I include add both of them, this is 12 GB and this is 16 GB. So total I have only 28 GB. So this 43 GB version cannot be loaded on my machine. So I will not try to run that because I know that will not work. Even this 32 billion model is also running very slow. Any model which runs more than 10 tokens per second is kind of okay for me. Any model which runs more than 20 tokens per second is usable in regular life. Anything about 20 tokens per second is good for me. This I think would be in the range of something in between 5 to 10. Let's see. Okay, guys, it is taking too long of a time, and I think it is still in the thinking process. Let me check. Yes, this is still in the thinking process. So the think has started here and it has not yet ended. So perhaps adding some symbolism like in C representing at least. No, no, no. This is still running in the think process. So I think it has stopped producing results. No, no, still working, but going very slow. So this is the speed and my patience is running out, but let's see. It's still thinking. So bigger the model, lot more thinking it does. Okay, now the thinking has ended. Now it is printing the title, A New Beginning. In a bustling coastal town where the ocean waves whispered tales of adventure, lived a young boy named Lian. So it is printing the story. I'm stopping it now. Okay. Now I want to run it only on CPU. I will start with the first model, Ollama list. First model is 1.5 billion. So this is the one we need to run. Ollama run 1.5 and verbose. So the command to start only on CPU is same. So you do this and 1.5 billion model will be loaded, but it might be loaded in the GPU. We don't know. So you check and you can see that the previous model was unloaded and this is loaded in the GPU. And our memory has come down drastically, but now we want to use the CPU to run the model. So for that, what you need to do is you need to set parameter number of GPU. So num GPU is 0. Okay, so slash set parameter num underscore GPU 0. So what it sets is that GPU is not to be used, and now we give our prompt, and now you will see that the RAM is being used and the CPU is being used. So 65% CPU and the RAM, and our GPU is not being loaded. So here it loaded it into the GPU and we ask it to unload from GPU and load to CPU. So CPU memory. So this is the speed for 1.5 billion model running on a CPU which is 16 core 9750X. So, and here you can see that this is not consuming the full CPU. So this is being throttled not by the memory, not by the CPU, but the bandwidth of CPU to your RAM. So my RAM speed is 5200 MT per second. So this depends on the RAM speed, and you can see the 41.22 tokens per second. So still usable. Now we can test the same thing with 7 billion model. Let's see. 7 billion model loaded into the memory, and I think it again loaded into, yeah, it loaded into the VRAM. So we'll ask it to unload from here and tell me the story. So now it has unloaded from this and it will be loading into the memory, loaded in the memory and running on the CPU. So 65 to 70% CPU uses, GPU is empty, not doing anything. So let's see what type of result it produces. Okay, so the output is barely above my minimum. So the output was approximately 11 tokens per second, which is pretty good. And the CPU has stopped processing. The model is still in the RAM. We can check that. Okay, so you can see that right now two models, 7 billion and 1.5 billion, both are loaded in the CPU. Now let's try the 8 billion one. So up to 8 billion model, you can run on your CPU. And if you have 32 GB RAM, then you can even run 32 billion model. Let's say set parameters to GPU and tell me a story. And here it was loaded in the GPU first, unloaded from here, loaded here, and CPU is running at around same 65 to 70% speed. So 7 billion and 8 billion are approximately equal. So it will produce around, I would assume 9 tokens per second. Let's not waste your time. And now three models are loaded in the CPU. What about the last model? Can we run it 14 billion in the GPU? 14 billion is 9 GB, so should be able to run. I should be able to run. Let's try this. It will be very, very slow, so I may not run it completely. So let's see. So initially GPU will load it. So yeah, GPU has loaded it. I'll ask it to unload from GPU and run my command. So this will unload from GPU and will load it into the memory here. There were two models loaded already in the memory, so it unloaded that and loaded the 14 billion one. Two were unloaded, 7 billion and 8 billion, and 14 billion is loaded. RAM 16 GB is fine for 14 billion model. CPU is also fine, but the speed will be slow, you can see. So I think it would be approximately 6 to 7 tokens is what I'm seeing per second. I would say 6 to 7, 6 tokens per second kind of thing. So 14 billion is running fine. This is the speed in front of you. I don't want to take your time on this, so I'm saying Control C and buy. Let's try the last one, which should not work. This will not work because when I will load it, it will automatically load into RAM and VRAM both. So if we go here, we check that RAM is occupied, VRAM, the previous model was unloaded, and this is loaded. So by default, it is taking both the spaces. But if I ask you to only run it in the memory and then I give a command, it would be very difficult. It won't be able to produce any results. So it has unloaded from VRAM and trying to load in the RAM, and that will not happen because it will be out of RAM. I have stopped, my computer was frozen. I have stopped it here. It is unloaded from the RAM. I don't know even that part got recorded or not because my computer was frozen. So no, 32 billion don't work here. So I say bye. So guys, here are your models: 1.5, 7, 8, 14, and 32. So all this model works on my machine. If you have only CPU, you can run 1.5, 7, and 8 billion models. If you have GPU like me with 12 GB of RAM, you can run all these models. Just remember that 32 billion models will use CPU and GPU both, but up to 14 billion can run on the GPU. So this is the size. If this size can fit into your GPU, it will run on GPU. Otherwise, it will run on CPU come GPU combined. So guys, this is how you can run DeepSeek-R1 on your machine. I hope the video was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. Bye-bye.